We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino, and joining me, as always, well, not as always, because sometimes he just leaves me out in the dry and he gets guys like Alex to come in. Joe DeLeon.
That was one time. I'm sorry that I wanted to go watch Notre Dame play. It's it is what it is.
Oh, we're going to talk about Notre Dame today too. I know this is the SEC show, but you know. Oh, we're going to.
Well, we're talking about bowl season. We got Cox versus Catholics. It's going to be a really fun game. Dude, you don't even know how long I've been waiting on that.
What I would say is we might want to be careful in saying something like that, Joe, because, Cox and Catholics have been in the news before, and you don't want to really get into something like that. You know what I mean?
I made the same joke on my show with Sean, who's a former FCS offensive lineman as well, and he made the same counter joke, and I removed it from the show, and you go and do the same thing.
I mean, it's just the truth. I mean,
you're not wrong.
I know I'm not wrong.
It sounded like a funny headline, but yeah, you're right. It's also at the same time not the best pairing of names for a game.
Right. It's not. Cox versus Catholics. Do you understand the irony here?
Yes, I understand the irony, but the 5 minutes that I first saw it, like my idiot brain, anyone who's been paying attention to the show, I have been giggling over the cock wording the entire season, and I've been using as many different ways as possible. So I thought, like, oh, that's hilarious. I almost bought one of the, how they did the Catholics versus convicts t-shirts. That was like a notorious thing. Mm-hmm. They were making shirts that said Cox versus Catholics, and I was going to buy one, going to wear it on the show. And then Sean pointed that out to me. Yeah, Sean pointed that out to me, and it's not as clever when you put it that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, and I mean, I love our Catholic brethren and sisterin. I mean, we are one. We're a home full of Catholics, but sometimes you just gotta talk about the truth. All right, Joe, we do got a lot to get into, obviously, and unfortunately, the passing of Mike Leach at Mississippi State. We'll get into that. I guess just really we'll talk quickly about his legacy. In all seriousness, the Lord has a very unique way. A game being played in a stadium with a pirate ship. I mean, sometimes you just can't make stuff up.
Yeah.
His health had been rumored to be an issue all season, and then some people believe that Mike refused to do things during the season to better help himself. But regardless, that's how much he loved football, and he was an innovative guy. I remember Mike Leach, and we'll get into that, but I got a story I want to talk about off the top. Playoffs and bowl season, some games that you're looking forward to. I'm really intrigued by Tennessee and Clemson. I want to see Klubnik again. I want to see Klubnik against an SEC team. Let's see what happens there. How do they stop that defense? Another thing, Bryce Young and Will Anderson said that they're playing in the bowl game, which absolutely surprised me.
I want to talk about that because
okay.
I'm not a fan of that decision. I'm
not a fan of that decision, but those kids are always scared of Saban. And I guess you could think about it like this too. If those guys were to play like in the Senior Bowl, what's the difference? Mm-hmm. In some sense. But let me tell you something now. Bryce Young hasn't made an announcement
on if he's declaring or not.
If he's declaring or not.
It would be really silly.
It would be stupid. But here's my question would ultimately be, if he got hurt next year, how far is he going to fall? I mean, we've seen Sam Bradford get hurt and then be the number 1 overall pick.
Well, that's where things get tricky, where he's currently a member, allegedly, we're projecting that he's a member of the 2023 class. He's the first overall pick in this class for me. He's the first quarterback to go in this class for me for a number of reasons. But he gets hurt next year amongst the grouping of guys next year, which we always do this bit, next year's class is better than this year's class. But
next year's class is not better than this year's class in reference to quarterbacks, in my opinion. I mean, I guess you could say it's top heavy.
Well, because it's extremely top heavy. It's Caleb Williams, it's Drake May, and then there's also JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy's very talented, and he's going to be in that discussion. But my point is that if Bryce Young gets hurt, other teams are going to opt for May or for Caleb Williams instead of for an injured Bryce Young. So
What
that's
if you don't want to go to the Texans?
That's a totally fair point, and I'm sure that's why he hasn't announced.
And let me tell you something. And what's crazy is the Texans ain't going to take him. Listen, I know for a pretty good. They would have a lot would have to go into. It would have to come down to ownership decision for the Texans to take him too. Like
why do you say that?
Sourcing.
Okay.
Yeah, like I mean, look,
that would be a very Texans move to make if they decided.
Well, not really, because if you think about it, buddy, I mean, Kyler Murray gets hurt this week. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying Bryce is going to get hurt, but I mean, dude's little now.
You're talking from a size perspective.
What I've heard.
Okay. And honestly, like as somebody who I evaluate NFL draft prospects, and that's part of one of the shows that I do is scouting and talking about players. And what tends to happen is the media, which is me, has a very different viewpoint than with the NFL. The NFL, no matter how progressive they try to be, always has an old school style of thinking. And what you're talking about is totally true. I would not be surprised if there's a reason why Will Levis keeps getting brought up, even though he stinks and he's goddamn horrible. At the same time, the reason why he keeps getting brought up is that he fits that old school prototype, high character, leadership, big arm, big body, big frame, good athlete, can move. Like that's why he might likely end up being the first overall pick. It's just that I don't agree with that line of thinking.
I don't agree with it either.
Yeah.
We'll talk on that.
Yeah.
NCAA hires a new president from Massachusetts, a politician from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
A politician.
Yeah.
From Massachusetts.
Well, he did play basketball at Harvard.
I don't give two fucks what he played. I'm just being honest. I really don't care. What is he going to tell me about it? Look, we talked about this on the show this week, which me and you will get into.
Yeah.
With the playoffs expanding, they're going to have to change signing day.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because games will be played Saturday.
Right.
Okay. Like playoff games will be played today. Hypothetically, Tennessee versus Clemson goes down today in a playoff setting.
Yes.
Okay. So with that being said, you can't do that. Joe, I've made this known, and me and you might debate on this. We need commissioners. We need 3 big commissioners. We need or maybe even make it 4. Okay. You need a football one, baseball, which I think baseball needs to be the most regulated on some things. Mm-hmm. You need more scholarships. I mean, college baseball is a big thing in the South. So you got to do things different there. Also, basketball. Like, I mean, you're just going to – Joe, I could talk about Sean Miller this week not getting penalized by the IARP. Penny Hardaway. All that Louisville, with Rick Pitino, had 27 plaintiffs. All of them were named Hooker 1, Hooker 2, Hooker 3, all the way down to 27. That is a truth. That is
yes.
I'm not joking with
yes.
that. So, in my opinion, we need commissioners. We'll talk on that. A lot of people push back on me with that, but I don't care. You're wrong. All right, and then finally, we were going to talk about bowl games. Well, we'll talk about that in the playoffs too. Maybe how about this to wrap it up? We'll do a pretty big Ask Us. How about that? To wrap it up. All right. Oh, and also, Zach Arnett is hired, but we'll talk about this in the Mike Leach thing. Zach Arnett, the defensive coordinator, is hired. I think Billy Napier's in a little bit of heat.
You think specifically from that hire or just in general?
No, I think Billy Napier is in trouble in reference to they hired him for recruiting purposes and he's not getting it done. If they don't land Desmond Ricks, the 5-star corner, and he goes to Bama or LSU, they're in trouble because you hired Corey Raymond from LSU for that reason and you lost. Right. Okay. And
and Ricks isn't going to Florida, though. There's very little chance that he ends up picking Florida.
I think it's coming down to LSU and Bama.
Yes.
As
absolutely.
He's at LSU right now. And for our LSU listeners, go to ayssnetwork.com/forum. I did a pretty extensive write-up this morning. Mm-hmm. Woke up early. And so I think the Tigers sit good there. So let's get this thing rolling, though, Joe. but we'll wait until halfway through the show to do our first break. That sound good? But we'll do this.
Perfect.
All right, guys, head on over. Oh, and I made a bet this week or this morning. So through our partners over at BetOnline.ag, I did a 3-leg parlay. I am taking Jackson State money line, Buffalo Bills money line, the Minnesota Vikings money line. Okay, so hey man, it's a 3-leg parlay. I'm good with. I want to win money.
I like the Bills pick in there because of the snow situation that they're playing in. I did one of my bets yesterday. I was sitting in the office working.
From Miami, brother. They're going up there in the snow.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's
Tua ain't never seen snow before,
dude. Tua this whole goddamn week. So I keep saying the Lord's name in vain here. I keep forgetting what show I'm on.
Versus Cox.
I'm a Catholic. I'm supposed to be a little bit better, but Tua this whole damn week is like, oh, it's cold. Like it's nothing. It's nothing that we need to worry about. That man has never played in 0-degree weather with snow on the field. No, anyone who's played in the cold knows that shit sucks. That sucks to play in. And if you're not used to it, you are in for a rude awakening. So that's a fantastic bet to hit.
Yeah, well, and let me tell you something too. I mean, look, it's going to get really cold down here. You see me wearing the vest. I mean, it's cold in this house a little bit.
Yeah.
We got chili on the stove, you know, my wife just being a beast like she always is. So, I mean, look, that boy, that dude, All right. So head on over to betonline.ag. Guys, use your mobile devices to sign up today. You can use the promo code BELIEVE50. That is BELIEVE50, BLEAV, at checkout to use 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Again, betonline.ag, betonline.ag. Joe, we also have over close to 300 people that signed up for our play pool, sponsored through Believe this week. So thank you all for doing that. I think it led to Pack, if I'm not mistaken. So
I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure were either first or you were second to the Draft Dudes guys. But I'm gonna double check.
I mean, those dudes got like 200,000
combined, and they have the whole Draft Network website too. So it's
right,
so one person against the whole network.
I feel no shame in coming in two behind them. Zero.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You kicked the crap out of everyone else, which was
suck it, Cam.
Specifically Cam Rogers.
Oh God. Hey, so I shared his thing yesterday about his movie list. I probably shouldn't have done that because the LSU faithful absolutely obliterated him.
We were talking about that, and we always get a kick out of the same
Rogers,
thing happens.
By the way, is is one of our colleagues, I believe.
Yeah, this happens every single time every time he puts out one of those stupid polls, which like he knows he's going to get killed. You are the one who interacts with it, and the minute that you interact with it, it's just a downhill spiral from there. Nobody can agree with him because he puts these horrible, horrible lists together.
Like, dude, his Thanksgiving food list.
Stop. Beer should be number one, and then whatever else comes after that. And he can't drink beer. Is what he says.
Why can't he drink beer?
He doesn't like it. He drinks screwdrivers every time that he drinks. He came out to LA, and I only watched him drink screwdrivers. That was the only thing that he drank the whole time. Yeah.
We
don't need to trash him too much.
All right, let's get into the show. Everybody hit the like and share. Don't be a freaking Rudy Poo. Hit the like and share. I know it's cold. I know it's early. Hit the like and share. Joe, your thoughts on Mike Leach? His passing this week, ultra sad. Let me give you a quick story, though.
Yeah.
Very quickly. So I met Mike Leach in the summer of 2006 or 7 when I was getting recruited by Dennis Rowland at Southeastern Louisiana. Can you hear me okay? It looks like I'm having some issues.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. So in 2006, I met Mike Leach because Hal Mummy was the head coach at Southeastern. And when they did a deep dive of the air raid, and when I mean deep dive, it took 20 minutes. And Mike Leach walks in there with a clipboard and he goes on the whiteboard and he does like this. He literally goes, he sits there and goes, "Hello, everyone. My name's Mike Leach." And he goes, "You know how to perfect the air raid. Don't be an idiot." Okay, it's right from the whiteboard. Don't be an idiot. He goes, "I got 6 plays. It's like Novocaine. It always works. He walks out, and How Mummy goes, you ever see a dog stretch before it runs? And everybody's like, what the fuck just happened? Okay. Mike Leach, though, I will say this, love the trenches. As much as he got known as the air raid, loved watching the offense and defensive line battle. So that's my Mike Leach story. I guess, what are your thoughts on Mike Leach and everything that he brought to college football?
Yeah, I think that the fact that you're sharing a Mike Leach story is such a testament to who he was as a person and how rememberable he was. And the one thing that I got taken away from this week, like I feel like I'm too young or just not haven't been in the media long enough or around football deep enough to have run into him, but everyone seemingly has a Mike Leach story. Everyone interacted with him in some way, and it was always positive. I haven't seen a single person say something negative about Mike Leach even before his passing. And he's just somebody who very friendly, very affable, very memorable person because of who he was, not only as his personality, for the goofy things that he said in press conferences. For the one story that I saw this week that was really fun was when he was the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma, and
The play thing?
Yeah,
The
where
Texas play thing?
he wrote out the
my
fake
God.
script to trick Texas, and it worked. And like it's so creative but stupid at the same time, because it's like typically that I feel like that wouldn't work. Like,
Did
that
you hear
wouldn't-
Tom Herman in that? Tom Herman goes, I pick it up and I'm like, there's no way they would just like legitimately.
Right. Right. That's my point, is that like for a team to be that stupid to fall for, and it's like the oldest trick in the book. It's like a
Oldest trick in
cartoon
the book.
move to do something like that, and it worked. But separate from who he was as a personality, he is one of the most impactful people for the game of football.
No doubt.
He has revolutionized and altered the course of college football we see today, various NFL schemes, and not everyone's running the air raid, but so many air raid concepts have been worked into different offenses. The way that he approached practice has been altered based on his approaches to making practices more efficient, to get more things in. He is the reason why we see modern college football. You can't write the history book on college football without having a whole chapter on Mike Leach in the air raid. It's so important to have him included on that. I was listening to a show this week, and apparently you have to have 60% of your wins, or have 60%
Yeah, the
of
Hall
wins.
of Fame thing.
But they need to make an exception for that, because like as we're saying here, he has been so revolutionary for the way that the game looks today. And also, he's like one of the winningest coaches at Washington State, one of the winningest coaches at Mississippi State. He has done so many things at every single step of the way, and he might not have been perfect. He might have had some down years. He still has been a fantastic coach, and they need to make some sort of exception for that.
I will say this. I woke up one morning because Mike Leach was complaining, like he was complaining about the referees and the umpire against Ole Miss. And I will say this. I felt bad about saying he's whining, because when I said that, Joe, I didn't mean that I hate Mike Leach, because I really do enjoy, and as Cody sends us a super chat here, I really did enjoy his press conferences. It was really entertaining. But Cody McGee says what I liked about Mike Leach in press conferences when he did the whole cameo in Friday Night Lights with the Inner Pirate. Yeah, he was a pioneer, man, literally a pioneer for the sport. And it's sad. You have to go back to the 80s, the last time an active head coach in a Power 5 program passed away, during a season. Man, it's just it's sad, brother. And what's crazy about that story you brought up too about Oklahoma, his quarterback was Josh Heupel.
I know, that was like the funniest part about it. There's so many different people too that he's touched along the way, that he's interacted with. Like Lincoln Riley was a walk-on quarterback at Texas Tech, and told him
was his GA.
Yeah, told him like be a student assistant, and
Right.
The rest is history with him.
Well, his coaching tree is otherworldly. Like Sonny Dykes comes from his coaching tree. Dave Aranda technically comes from his coaching tree. And let me say this. When him and Hal Mummy did with the air raid, it is incorporated everywhere. Okay. Like Joe, the trips right stick route with the backside slant is completely the air raid. Okay, people call it West Coast. No, the way that they do it is completely different. The option routes, things like that. So they were absolutely a pioneer. So, we think for his family and obviously, for the entire Mississippi State team. Zach Arnett, though, was hired. Their current DC, or was their current DC, was hired as the next head coach. I don't know how to react to this, Joe. Okay, like they don't have an athletic director. Their athletic director went to Auburn. Their head coach just passed away. I mean, man, I don't even know how. I mean, I don't want to say Zach Arnett was rushed to the podium, but my God, did it feel that way? Like they talk about stabilization.
Yeah.
But at the same time, but here's another thing. His buyout's only like $12 million. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not crazy. But regardless, I mean, don't make emotional decisions. And that was my whole thing about this Zach Arnett situation, him being hired.
Yeah, I understand having that sentiment with the Zack Arnett hire. And at the same time, I also don't hate the logic of, okay, everything's kind of going down right now. Everyone's very emotional, and we want to have somebody that the players are comfortable with and that they can lean on. I feel like it wouldn't have been the best to go out and make an outside hire for next season for a team that these guys are probably hurting. They're probably as hurting as much as anybody that's interacted with him, because he's a guy that they all probably saw the day before and was coaching him up the day before.
Yeah, he's gone. He was at a Christmas party.
Yeah, and to lose your head coach like that, I feel like this was, to your point, it is an emotional decision. But the decision is we want our guys to feel comfortable. We want them to be with somebody who is a part of the coaching tree that is familiar with everything, and they don't want to probably change too much. I think that was what the approach was. The buyout's cheap. They don't have an athletic director, so they can't really do a proper search. They need to hire that athletic director, which is probably going to take a year. That search is always longer than the head coaching search because of how complicated of a hire it is.
Down to their Final Four, and we're going to make a decision before the holidays and not go public with it.
Oh,
and now they've postponed that because let me tell you something about Cohen, who's a new AD at Auburn. Cohen had pretty much told him he was out.
Yeah,
this thing with Auburn had been going on for a while. Okay, right. So they had been aware, but but you're right. Okay, an AD search usually takes up to a year. LSU had an interim for a while, but long story short, they got Scott Woodward in and out of here. I mean, but that I can confirm that was going on for over a year of them talking about him coming in. I agree with you. I get that the guys are hurting and you need a stabilization. I get that. Like I really, really get that. I also understand that at times this is when you did need an athletic director. Okay. And it really stinks because there would be somebody that would take over Mississippi State, like of quality.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and Zack Arnett might do really well. He might do really well. He's a good coach. Okay?
Yeah, he's a really good defensive coordinator. They were surprisingly good this year.
Well, they gave LSU fits. They gave Ole Miss fits. So they gave Alabama fits. Okay, like he's a good DC, but the problem is he a good head coach? We'll find that out as well. So shout out to Mike Leach and everything that he did for the sport. I guess it is what it is. It just really sucks. I went on a Mike Leach deep dive, by the way. His cameos, oh my God.
Oh God, yeah.
The nacho ones. Well, and then you know how he breathes?
Yes.
Like I feel like that's an act sometimes. Okay. He's like, well, what kind of meat do you want? You can't go beef because it's too greasy and you already got cheese. And don't give me American cheese. Give me cheddar and pepper jack. Have you ever ate melted pepper jack cheese? And I'm like, oh my God. This is a conversation I have with myself and never go public with. And he's going, anyway, so shout out to Mike Leach. All right, let's transition though to this playoffs and bowl games. where do you want to start off with? Do you want to start off with bowls, or do you want to start off with the playoffs? Because I kind of want to start off with the bowls and then make our way up to the playoffs. But I'll let you decide.
Yeah, I think we should talk more of the bowl games that we've got going on, because we still have a little bit of a runway before the New Year's Six games, before the.
No, we won't be, but we won't be on here.
That's
and
true.
So I think we should get both, because Christmas Eve is next Saturday. So I think we should touch on both.
Yes. Let's talk about the bowl games first. I think that's probably
okay. What's your favorite? All right, I want to get to this. Let's go a little Notre Dame. Let's get to some big ones. Let's start with Notre Dame and the Cox. We talked about that earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
Who's playing quarterback for Notre Dame?
That is a shit show right now. I honestly don't really know, and I I keep trying to figure out who that guy is going to be for that game. But Drew Pine enters the portal, which, good riddance. I thought that he stunk the whole season. I don't think that they needed him, and the writing was on the wall that they're trying to get a transfer portal quarterback to come in. Now, Tyler Buckner apparently might be healthy, it might be available, but I don't know the possibility and the likelihood of that. He was their starting quarterback at the beginning of the season before he suffered a season-ending injury. The other option, and the scary one, is Steve Angeli, who's a true freshman from New Jersey, from Bergen Catholic, and he's fine. He's a talented kid. Not the guy that you want to trot out there to go against an SEC defense for his first career ever start. I don't have a lot of expectations for Notre Dame in this game, because the quarterback situation. Even if Buckner comes back, he hasn't played at all the entire year. It's a tough situation to step right back in. And to be honest, as much as I hated on South Carolina beginning in the year, they're hot right now. They're a very, very hot team right now. So this could be a buzzsaw that Notre Dame's stepping into.
Well, so they do have a pair of tight ends that left. So but I forget the little white kid that looks like Mike Allstott, who's been kind of like, he was the guy against Clemson, if you remember, had the one-handed catch.
Yeah.
So Jaheim Bell was great, and the kid that went back to Oklahoma, I forget his name. He was
Austin
good too.
Stogner. Jaheim Bell was a lot more talented.
Right. Stogner was, below average SEC player. Yeah. I mean, let's just call it what it is. South Carolina's the hottest team. Probably you can make the argument is the hottest team going into bowl season. I don't know. You could say this is a Brian Kelly fault, but I'm going to say this about Notre Dame in general, and that you're going to push back. I think this is the worst matchup they can have right now. I really do believe South Carolina, the way that they've been hot, they have a new offensive coordinator that's coming in. People ragged on me for 3 weeks about this Spencer Rattler take. I get he throws picks, but you can't stop what they've been doing. I think it's a bad matchup. Is Notre Dame's tight end playing as well?
He declared for the draft, but
I'm pretty sure he said he was skipping the bowl game. So Notre Dame doesn't have the biggest weapon that they need. I think this is a very bad matchup for Notre Dame, and I'm not saying that.
Yeah, he's not playing in the bowl. Michael Mayer's not playing in the bowl.
Yeah, Michael Mayer's not playing in the bowl.
And I don't think Bosky, who's their best defensive end.
He's not playing either. The defensive end, right? Did you just burp?
No, that was just a sigh of disgust and exhaust.
That's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. And then look, let's just say this. This isn't a Brian Kelly thing either, because schools go through stigmas. Okay, LSU can't beat Alabama. Georgia can't win the big one. Notre Dame's got to have some bowl success. And really, Joe, until they can prove to me that when you're up 28 and then Oklahoma State roars back and beats you, there's stigmas, right? They're going to have to overcome that, and I have to see them overcome that, if that makes sense. Now,
right.
We'll talk about Notre Dame because of the early signing day thing.
Yeah.
There's one prominent offensive coordinator that a lot of people know, and I'm not going to mention his name, told me this, and why a lot of guys don't like recruiting and being in college. Guys, I'm out here recruiting. I'm not studying film. Okay. Mm-hmm. My question would be for Notre Dame with this whole Peyton Bowen thing, it's being reported out and that's out there. How much are they really focusing on this bowl game? Because they got to look, if they lose Bowen, all that shit they talked about Brian Kelly can't recruit. You too. Okay.
The thing that the thing is that's so dumb with NIL though is that it's the world we now live in, and it sucks to sit here and
I thought Notre
complain.
Dame had money.
They do, but for some self-righteous reason, they're not really offering guys that much money compared.
Well,
to
then prepare to lose.
Look, they've got really, really rich alumni, and probably one of the richest alumni bases in the country, and they just need to pony up and offer the money. I don't. Again, it's so complicated to really understand because you're not a part of those backdoor conversations to know like what the collectives are saying, like what those alumni groups are saying, and who they're talking to get a few, whatever the money is. Those numbers are arbitrary because we kind of saw this week with Josh Pate saying that those numbers are always inflated. And then a lot of these recruits came out and said, you're absolutely right, they're inflated.
Joe, let me stop you very quickly on that. I've been on that hype train for over a year. You can ask our producers. Joe, the kid that going to Tennessee, Nico, this week, he's not getting paid $7 to $8 million.
No,
he's not. Joe, you want to know the highest paid person in NIL last year? Bryce Young. You know what? $1 million. Yeah, it was like 1.8 total.
Yeah.
The thing that got him over the million was Dr. Pepper signed him. Listen to this now, a 5-year contract.
Yes. So those deals like that are the ones that are actually paying. That's not an NIL deal to keep him in Alabama. That's a Dr. Pepper deal.
Well, and here's another thing. It's not to stay at Alabama. Like it's not. And let me say this: it's not something Alabama's putting together. Okay, like basically, Dr. Pepper is one of the biggest SEC spenders. Okay, college football spenders out there. They have what's that little stupid commercial they do every week? They change it up.
Something house.
Fansville.
Yeah.
Okay. They're gonna do, and let me tell you what they're gonna do next year. You ready? They're gonna do it with Caleb Williams.
Oh, absolutely.
It has nothing to do with. Yeah. It has nothing to do with Alabama.
Right.
They're not getting paid that. But continue.
Well, all I was saying is that these numbers are so inflated. There's a lot of hearsay when it comes to what the numbers actually are. So it's hard to really know what's going on. But Notre Dame, whatever that number is, needs to just catch up with it. I know that I think that the premise that I've heard that Notre Dame's going after is, okay, look, go ahead. If you want to go to these other schools, you want to take the money, go for it. Take the upfront money. But at the same time, if you want to come to a school with a really good business program and learn how to actually market yourself and turn into a highly reputable kid, you're going to make more money in the long term, which I like that. I like that approach. I actually agree with that approach. Some of these guys are still getting NIL money. They're still getting paid. But the argument is that, like, go to a school with a bad business program or go to one with one of the best in the country.
They're not there. They're not there to play business.
The kids who go to Notre Dame are, though. The kids that, like Peyton Bowen originally signed up for that. Keon Keeley, when I talked to him when he was committed to Notre Dame, he made that decision based on, like,
and where are those two kids? And hypothetically,
they took the money.
Well, here's the thing. You can say what you want. Alabama's got a fantastic business program.
Yeah, but it's not. It's light years below what Notre Dame has. Those aren't even comparable.
I don't want to say light years because, Joe, here's the problem that I think that Notre Dame faces. Okay, when you talk about stuff like this, a guy like Keeley or Bowen, it doesn't matter what their degree is going to say because the fandom that they're going to have if they succeed, buddy. A former LSU alum, okay, former, got an LSU business degree. He's clearing over $9 million a year just in his business. It doesn't matter that it said LSU. It doesn't.
I don't disagree with that. And look, I went to the University of Rhode Island, which doesn't have has a crap media program, and yet I'm exceeding the kids. That
y'all have things like, your what do you call that? Majors like clam chowder making
and watercolors. Yeah, that's what we have at the University of Rhode Island. But I'm always at that philosophy. But my main point is that if these guys that usually commit to Notre Dame are guys that come from very typically private schools with Christian backgrounds in general that want to go somewhere for a really good education and want to prioritize education. Like that's the idea that you get with a lot of these guys that end up going there. They want both. It's the perfect combination of both in my eyes. And that's what, like, I've always been sold on. And the reason why I love Notre Dame, why I originally wanted to go there, and then I opted to play football instead of trying to go there. It's what's the selling point for these guys, and that's what the recruiting pitch is like, yes, go ahead, you can be a big name player. What you're talking about, create a fan base. You're always going to have that fan base invested in you, giving you money. You're going to make it to the NFL, all those things. But I think some guys aspire to, like, I remember there was an offensive lineman, this was way before NIL, like 5 or 6 years ago, who would have gone to the NFL, but decided to just end his career after his junior year and then go get a finance job. Some of these guys prioritize that. Like, that's important to them. They really like working. They want to have it's just a different vibe. And it's more of like, I think, more of a Northeast vibe. A lot of guys from that Northeast area, a lot of guys, coming from like that Atlanta area that just have that approach that's their priority that they're going for.
I want to get to some of these
too.
I want to get to some of these comments right after this statement. Sometimes, Joe, you need, and you need a motherfucker. Meaning, on the top of if you want to win national titles, you need the motherfucker. Who's the motherfucker I'm talking about? The motherfucker is the guy that is of elite talent. Will Anderson, Peyton Bowen, Shelton Sampson. These guys that are just ultimately elite. Deshaun Womack, whoever it may. Desmond Ricks. We were talking about him earlier about going to LSU or Alabama. The bottom line that I'm trying to say is, no, it doesn't matter. Yeah, Notre Dame, you're going to have a very good approach of getting the middle tier. Like, you're never going to be getting your ass kicked. You're going to be middle pack, meaning you'll be a top 10 team, and that's great. But the way to get over that hump is not a Brian Kelly thing. It's not a Marcus Freeman thing. It's a Notre Dame thing. And if you want to play with the big dudes, you're going to have to sacrifice some of your moral compass and paying these guys. Joe, you want me to tell you why I say this? I sent you a tweet last night that said North or South is greater than North. I said that because I was thinking about today and what I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
Of the FBS, the Power 5 national title winners over the last 20 years. You ready for it? The Southeast and Ohio State.
Oh, you were talking from like a college perspective. I thought you just meant football in general.
Perspective.
Okay.
What team? And you know what the SEC is doing? They're paying dudes. Yeah. If Notre Dame wants to get to prominence and over that hump, they have the infrastructure, they have the wealth, they have the talent for them to do it. And until Notre Dame decides, we're too prideful, shut up and pay. Because until you do that, you're going to get your ass beat. You know who's doing it? Ohio State, LSU, Georgia, Bama.
But Texas. You know who has a very similar recruiting approach, and it's not that far. Michigan's not really like one of those big.
But Michigan's paying money out dudes, though. Their NIL collective was reported by Pete Thamel to have $4 million in it.
They're much paying? What? Notre Dame's not paying people. They're not paying people. I'm saying that like Michigan's not like
dudes, you gotta pay.
Yeah,
you're about to lose Peyton. Look, I don't like. Me and Brian Driscoll have had our issues, but he reported and it got leaked on Twitter. His little thing about Peyton Bowen getting $3 to $4 million offer from Oregon. You're losing the Keeley kid to Alabama or wherever he's going to go.
They already lost him.
They already lost him.
Yeah.
Joe, your two top-tier recruits, the two top-tier recruits, hypothetically, are either going to go to a guy that was in the SEC and knows what Kirby Smart did to get elite athletes there, and you're losing it to Alabama and the SEC school. The reason is because Dan Lanning and Nick Saban are cut from the same cloth and coaching in the Southeast. You got to do it to win. You might not have to do it for Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer might not ever take a cent. But the bottom line is, for you to get over the top, you got to pay.
No, I don't. Look,
and the business thing, Chris says this. Yeah. My wife's got 3 degrees, and everybody, she got 3 people under her that were, they got a Notre Dame degree. You could say the same thing about Notre Dame to LSU. My point is, those top tier dudes, you got to pay for, brother.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I was more so just sharing how Notre Dame approaches it.
Well, it's a dumb approach.
it works for those 4-star kids. Like that's where they're getting them, and that's why they've got like 20 something top 4-star kids, talented players, great athletes. But I agree with your point. There does need to be a certain divide of keeping Peyton Bowen, to have the money to keep Peyton Bowen. I don't think Keon. I know Keon. There is obviously money involved, and we don't know what those numbers are. I think Keon Keeley was a little bit different because he didn't decommitted as early as he did. From what I understood, is that he had people in his corner that were encouraging him to take visits elsewhere and not to stay committed, just to see what the opportunities out there were. He loved Notre Dame. And again, like I interviewed him, I wrote an article on him. If I can pull the article, I'll send it to you. This is my brief stint when I was at Irish Breakdown for a little bit as a contributing writer. And he was all in. He loved Notre Dame, loved everything about it. He was recruiting guys. He was very excited about it. But I think that what shifted him to Alabama was the star factor of all the edge rushers that come out of that program, and seeing what Will Anderson's doing and watching him go to work. Like, I think that was what the case is. But I totally agree with you that money has to be offered.
That's not the case. I look, Joe.
You think he made that decision based on money entirely?
I make you an offer you can't refuse.
I think it was a little bit of. I'm saying it's a little bit of both. I don't think it was just purely money.
And I'm telling you, I was born at night. I wasn't born last night. It's a different way of. You're gonna get mad at me, and if Peyton Bowen leaves Notre Dame, you're gonna go down to probably 10 in recruiting, and LSU will be at number 3. Mm-hmm. And you better be ready, because I'm gonna be an ignorant asshole all over social media.
I might have to mute you that day. I might have to mute you.
No, I will text it to you. You're going to have to legitimately block my phone number, because the truth was, you got to be able to get a Harold Perkins to win natties. You don't have one. You can think that you do, but you really don't, because here's the difference. LSU's about to get another Harold Perkins, and another Harold Perkins, and another Harold Perkins. You have one. LSU's, I'm telling you, Alabama's got 2, 3, 4. They're about to get 2 more. You had one committed. My point is, this is a every year thing. Like, you got to, what separates the top from the bottom is who's spending the most money. And bottom line is the teams that are spending the most money are winning. Yeah. Of the recruiting budgets, you want to know the top 5 recruiting budgets in the country? You ready for them?
Yeah, what do you got?
It's Alabama, it was Georgia, it was LSU, it was Texas A&M, it was Texas. Or let me back, it wasn't Texas, it was Ohio State.
So Texas A&M and Texas are in there?
Texas A&M Texas A&M, it was different because of how they enroll their, how they enroll their recruiting and how they spend for it. It's all privately funded, so you don't have records of that, of some of it. My point, and look what happened in recruiting last year with A&M. Those kids got their money and left. You have to have a good structure. And you're going to laugh at me when I say this. Mm-hmm. Here's the bottom line why Brian Kelly left Notre Dame, whether anybody wants to mention it or not. He left Notre Dame because they wouldn't pay. That's it. You can make the argument all you want to. He left because they wouldn't pay. Here's one counter argument. What's going to happen if he finishes with 2 top 4 or top 5 recruiting classes and back-to-back years? What's going to happen?
Well, he's in the SEC and he has the money to work with.
Like, it's to do with the SEC.
But he's got the money to work with. We're talking about like how they're willing to pay. He's got the money to work with. And again, I don't disagree that like paying, it has its advantages of getting guys. But at the same time, we were just talking about earlier how Bryce Young is the highest paid NIL player, and how that money isn't coming from a collective. It's coming from a branding deal, because he's the best, most notable player in the country. So in a way, it doesn't even really matter what that upfront NIL salary or whatever we want to call is. It doesn't really matter. So that's my point, is that like, go somewhere that you could just market yourself. Like, that's what I don't get. Kids want to just take the upfront money.
You ever had somebody give you $100,000 under the table?
No, I have not. Yeah, if you're an 18-year-old, you're not gonna think very clearly, and you're gonna opt to make that decision, which is why NIL.
No, we're 30 years old. I'm 32 years old. Somebody slides me $100K underneath the table. Where you want Ben at tomorrow? I will drive that little fucker there myself.
Even if it was like
offer Ben Rufino $100,000 right now, I would say, what time, Where and what's the temperature?
Okay,
I
but
would get him clothes, food, and let him go.
even if you were taking him to like Alaska or like Russia, like you would drop him off there.
Okay.
I know it's
Don't
extreme.
throw in Russia.
Sorry, that's
Let's
an
be
extreme
relative
example.
here.
Yes.
Okay.
Alaska.
If the University of Alaska, the U of A, go polar bears. If they come, if they called Ben Ruffino right now and said we're offering $100,000 in NIL money, bye-bye.
No, I mean, money influences decision making. It's not always the best decision making, but it influences decision making. It absolutely does.
What happens is he can make better decisions without being financially stressed. And I feel like me and Megan raise a great home. I really believe that. So, go Polar Bears. All right.
Wait, the final before we move on, the final thing that look, I just don't think we should be surprised that Notre Dame has this approach because I for one am somebody who, as a longtime Notre Dame fan, have read so many different books from different coaches, like Eric Parsegian about his era. I just finished reading Lou Holtz's book, all great books, and a lot of things that they talk about. That we're just at this point in time where there's less academic restrictions to get guys into school. It's very rare for them to currently in this Marcus Freeman era for them to be willing to work with him and help get guys that maybe typically wouldn't fit the Notre Dame criteria for admissions to get in. I was reading the Lou Holtz one and Tony Rice, who a fantastic, one of the best quarterbacks in Notre Dame history, almost didn't get into school. Lou Holtz offered him a scholarship and had to go beg admissions to let him in because he was like 0.1 off on his GPA for what they wanted to get in.
That's ridiculous.
They used to be ridiculous. So, but they're always going to have, and I saw somebody say it's ego. It is. I'm not going to sit here and blindly defend an alumni base that I'm not a part of, but I associate with because of my dad going there. They all have this old school, old fart mentality of like, you got to have the grades to get in. And it goes in line with the money thing. They're probably thinking the same damn thing. Like, oh, we shouldn't have to pay these kids. They should be excited that they're getting a Notre Dame education. I'm not the biggest fan of all that. I do think that there's value in it.
The world changes.
Yeah. I think that there's value in it. And I think the smart kids are going to realize that. But at the same time, you do need to offer these kids a base salary. It's not that much money. I was reading an article, Deshaun McCullough, the Indiana defensive end who transferred to Oklahoma. Right. He was only looking for $300,000. Like, that's not that couple $1 million that we're talking about here. And he's one of the best edge rushers in the country and was the best edge rusher on the transfer portal market. So it doesn't take a lot of money.
Well, and it doesn't. Okay, like I know for a fact that the A&M, what A&M was offering kids last year was some of them $50,000 a year. They have 26 kids in the portal. So my point is the under the table deals are still being made.
Yeah.
And people don't like to hear that. It's just the truth. All right. Let's move on to another bowl game because I still want to get to the playoffs and we got to get to this NCAA thing, the president. Let's go Alabama, Kansas State. Surprise. I'll give you the floor. I'm really going to show up on this one. As a draft guy, as a guy that covers guys, how surprised are you Bryce Young and Will Anderson are playing?
Yeah, this game is what it is, and it's going to be a fun one to watch. But I frankly completely hate the decision for them to play in this game. Bryce Young, I think, should be the first overall pick, but at the very least, he's a top 10 pick. If there are questions about his size and his frame, Will Anderson is a top 3 pick. And maybe the Texans could even talk themselves into saying, let's give Davis Mills one more shot, or let's go after a veteran quarterback, and we're going to equip this defensive line because we want the best player in the draft. Both really talented players. This bowl game is meaningless. And I know a lot of the old school football fans hate that take and want guys to play in the bowl games, but there is no value in them for playing in the game. The two most recent examples that come to mind, and there's plenty of them, but I think of Matt Corral, who was possibly a first-round pick last year, injured his ankle in his meaningless bowl game, and that completely disrupted his trajectory. But the worst one of them all is Jalen Smith from Notre Dame. Tore up his knee, nerve damage, and he hasn't been the same player since. He had a couple good years with the Cowboys, but that knee has caught up to him. These games, as much as you want to go out and ride out with your guys one more time and have one more final game, I know that there's money now available to these players. I don't like it. Like there's a playoff. If you're playing in the playoff, go play in the playoff. You should play in the playoff. Jackson Smith and Jigba should be playing in the damn playoff.
Well, he's injured though, right?
He's injured.
Yeah, but I mean, he hadn't played all year either. Like, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I don't agree with Jackson Smith and Jigba officially going in. Okay. But, there comes a time like the Boses did it. Okay. And he wasn't coming back, and they told him, like, if you come back, you're going to really hurt your stock and if you get hurt again. So I'm not like, he's not going to prove anything, in my opinion, with Jackson Smith and Jigba. But I agree with you and then disagree at the same time, because the pushback is everybody gets mad about finish out your bowl game, finish out your season, and I understand that, but they're not Bryce Young, right? Like, and as Paul says right here, maybe Bryce's NIL dictates that he plays in the bowl game. I don't think.
I'd hope he doesn't make his decision based on that.
I don't know if it does, but what I will tell you is that I do believe what happens here is when you don't have guys declaring, okay, like those two dudes, what has Saban got cooking?
Well, we've always known that Saban's a really good coach, and his guys, they all talk about how much they love him. And I think that that's just a genuine ability to establish relationships with his guys. I think that they want to be a part of the program and finish out. They were probably really disappointed that they missed the bowl game. That was probably the reasoning. They were probably disappointed that they missed the playoff, and they just wanted to finish out the season and play with one final shot and get one final good game in. And I'm praying that there's no issues for these guys. Like,
well,
it
and
sucks.
look, this isn't a common occurrence at Alabama. Jerry Jeudy, who was a top 20 pick, did it. Henry Ruggs did it. Jalen Waddle tried to play in that playoff game, but that's different. But you get what I'm saying. It's not something that's out of the realm. But look, we'll see. I mean, if you make the decision, okay, you're gonna have to live with that decision. Matt Corral got injured. We forgot about Matt Corral. You remember Matt Corral, really messed up his ankle and couldn't do anything for the teams. And then now he's at Carolina and just
floating around.
Right. I mean, so it's tough. I mean, I would advise them not to play if you're going to the draft. I think Saban gets selfish with that sometimes. Like, Will Anderson's draft stock's never going to be higher. Never. I would say that maybe Bryce Young's could, because the thing with Bryce is he's still a younger guy, meaning he could come back and still be 21 years old, right? And so there are parts of me that I was like, okay, well, I can maybe understand with Bryce, but Will Anderson, you have Bryce Young could play 15, 16 years in the league. Will Anderson probably won't. Okay, like he will be on the massive decline, like Von Miller. Von Miller has had more injuries this season than he's had in his entire career. That is confirmed. So, how long's Von Miller been there? I think 12 or 13 years.
Yeah.
Now he's on the decline. So my point being is, I understand it for Will Anderson. I don't think he should play. All right. Any other bowl games? Or you want to finish?
Well, no, that just echoing the same sentiment, but the other bowl games, a non-SEC one that I'm going to be watching, UNC versus Oregon, because I think we're getting most of those players playing in that game, and Drake May's coming back.
And
that
Bo
one's going to be
Nix
fun.
Hasn't made a decision either.
No, yeah, Bo Nix hasn't made a decision, which is
I'm hearing through the grapevine that he's going back.
He should just go to the Senior Bowl, man. He's such a Senior Bowl quarterback. Just ride off into the sunset. He's not going to get drafted any higher than he is right now, which is a day 3 pick. Right off.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, because what if he look? Joe Burrow was an older kid. I mean, look, he could go back and have a Heisman type year.
It doesn't have anything to do with his age, though. For me, it's just that Kenny Dillingham just left, and that was the big reason for his success. And we saw the last time that he was not paired with Kenny Dillingham, the struggles that he had at Auburn. I think that it would be bad for his stock. Because who the hell? I don't even know if they've announced who's going to take over that offensive coordinator job officially. It would be better for him.
They did announce it, but I don't remember who it is. It's not Joe Brady, by the way. Everybody,
Yeah, but he's not going to get any higher than at the most a late day 2 pick, early day 3 pick. Now is the time. Everyone has a positive taste in their mouth for Bo Nix, and you got to take advantage of that. But the other game too, the Tennessee Clemson one. That one's gonna be
that's
fun.
that's where I wanted to go. Look, I will say this on the LSU part because they'll rid me alive if I don't mention LSU when we talk bowl games.
You guys are gonna wax Purdue. That is ridiculous.
Well,
what
let
you're
me
going
just
up
say
against.
that. Let me just say this very quickly. Drew Brees is going to be an interim assistant coach. I hope all of his hair plugs fall out. I hope he breaks a hip. And then when the game's over, he goes back to being the Louisiana GOAT. Okay? But of all the games that Drew you get to coach in and have the ability to, you're going to coach against LSU? You Rudy Poo?
Yeah, but he's got no affiliation with LSU. Like
the bullshit he don't. This is a Louisiana thing. And
but he's more interconnected to Purdue than he is to LSU.
Well, I can't say that. You're right. But let me tell you something. Of Louisiana fans, it's the Saints and it's LSU. There's no in between. There's no gray. Go ahead. I hope your hair plugs fall out, bitch. But after that, you're still the GOAT. I can't say that about
side note.
I'm mad. I'm mad.
I know. It makes sense.
You know why I'm mad? He could have done it last year for LSU. LSU needed help.
But he has no like affiliation with LSU. That's my
point. Bullshit.
This goofy interim coach thing wasn't popular. I didn't even know this. Deion Branch right now is the interim coach for Louisville.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is.
I was stunned when I was watching that when we started the show.
There's a video of him saying he reenacted. Remember the Friday Night Lights when the guy at Texas Department goes, "Get you one of these," and he's got a state championship ring. They say Branch walked in there with his Super Bowl championship. And he did the Ric Flair. He goes, "Oh, these bastards! I got like 7 of them." So I thought it was pretty cool. All right, Texas Clemson, go.
Tennessee
Clemson, go.
Tennessee Clemson. I know that we've got Joe Milton in, and he is what he is what he is. I'm more excited to see what Klubnik does. I know that Tennessee's defense is very inconsistent, but like this might be one of those games where Klubnik pops off and has like another huge game, and then we're going to be talking about going into next season. This is a Heisman finalist. Like this is a Heisman nominee going into the season. Watch what he does next year. The hype train will start to roll. Like the way that secondary is played for Tennessee, he might pop off and put up some numbers.
I think they're going to roll. Let me tell you. So I've been on this Clemson train and everybody's told me I'm an idiot. Okay, Joe. Dabo was an idiot by not starting Klubnik. We're all in agreement there. But he is there. And a good quarterback can make, T. Higgins, who's with the Bengals, talked about this. He goes, everybody said I was ass before Trevor Lawrence got there. Everybody said I was an ass. A good quarterback can make a really talented receiver look good. Okay. I do think they got pieces. Okay. I think Klubnik is one of the best. I think he's one of the best. He might be the number, and not in 2 drafts, he might be the number 1 overall pick. I fully believe he has that potential.
The thing that scares me though is we said the same thing about DJ Uyunglele.
But see the problem with that though is that we can see him. We've seen him. I was never sold on DJ. Even in that Notre Dame win or loss, I was never sold. Okay, Notre Dame just let him do whatever he wanted, and Klubnik has done this in 2 games. Like we've seen him be productive in multiple situations. He came back and what was it, Syracuse they played? Yes. He led them back to a win. Yes. And then obviously last week, the last game, the SEC championship game, he was the only reason they won. They were really struggling.
Well, he also pissed down his leg when they put him in against Notre Dame, and he threw one of the worst passes he's probably going to throw in his career.
So I got 2 of them where he saved him and 1 when he didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, look, that Notre Dame game was gone before he got in. I mean, he was trying to make something happen and he just couldn't. Okay. I think they'll be fine. I do want to find out what Tennessee, though, does have in Joe Milton because they hadn't gone in the portal and got a QB. It's being reported that they probably won't go in the portal and get a QB.
They're rolling with Milton.
Nico kid is on campus.
Yes, I saw that.
Okay, and have you been seeing how hard they're coaching him? It's kind of crazy.
I mean, if he's ready to go, get him out there. By the way, he shouldn't play right away. There was some shots of him on the sideline in practice. His frame, man, he is so thin.
He's little.
He needs to. He's a tall kid, but there's no way that he weighs over 170 pounds. Like, he's got to get up to.
I think he's over 200. He's over 200 because he's just so tall, Joe. I mean,
yeah,
he's over.
I'm over exaggerating.
You're right. I mean, but I want to say something. I saw that video.
He's listed at 195, and he looks like he was like 185.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. Look. The last time we showed Joe Milton. Thank you. I get it's Vandy, but he lit it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's always been talented.
Well, he's got talent. That's my thing. Joe Milton's got talent. He's got a bazooka for an arm. He's just, he's what you would call a guy that you like. He's like Anthony Richardson in a lot of ways. He's more Anthony Richardson than anything. He's highly inconsistent. He's highly inaccurate at times. However, when he is accurate, oh shit. I mean, because he was accurate against Vandy, and all right. But they ran the ball a lot too, so they're not going to be able to run the ball. Like, what else is crazy? We talking about Bama. Clemson's defensive line hasn't opted out. They got Brassy or Brad. There are a lot of these big
Miles Murphy. Yeah, there was one kid who's
not opting out.
There's one kid who accepted a Senior Bowl invite, but I don't think he opted out, which is I don't know. Maybe they're trying to get like one last good game in. That is Brazie's weird because Brazie's had such a long injury history. For him to not opt out of the game is really strange to me. And part of me wonders maybe he does want to come back. I don't know what the total deal is with that, but he's a really talented player.
Is he going to get drafted in the first round?
I want to double check how many games he missed this year, but like I talked about, his projection is like he's a top 15 pick in my eyes. But if he doesn't play at least 3/4 of his games, in my opinion, I wouldn't touch him until the second round because the injury history stuff's concerning. Like that's really concerning because it sucks drafting a defensive lineman that's in and out of the lineup.
I agree with that. I agree with that. All right, since we won't be here next Saturday because of Christmas Eve, you want to get on this playoffs? Because maybe we can do a surprise show before. Maybe we can do a morning show on New Year's Eve because it's the playoffs and we can just talk playoffs.
Yeah.
Buddy, to kind of wrap this up with the bowl games and playoffs. I put a $100 parlay, a 2-leg parlay in. I just don't see a scenario where it's not going to be Georgia, Michigan coming out of this. Like, I just don't. I don't think TCU. I'm more worried about. I'm more sold on Michigan beating TCU than I am Georgia beating Ohio State. As crazy as that sounds, I don't know if that sounds crazy, but my thing with Ohio State is they just have the weapons that they could shock Georgia. And the football gods don't like back-to-back natties. There's not a lot I think the last time it happened was 2011, 2012, literally 10 years ago when Bama did it. I don't know, man. I think Michigan's in the catbird seat, if I'm being honest.
As somebody who specifically talking about Ohio State in the Georgia game, as somebody who follows and covers FCS football, I don't think it would hurt to draw a parallel on roster structure and what we just saw last night with Incarnate Word in North Dakota State. Like, I think that Ohio State is going to give
out Lindsey Scott, who screwed me. Anyway.
I think that Ohio State could give them some fits just based on the athletes that they have. But at the same time, my fear is, can their offensive line
hold up?
Nut up and play a tough game against Georgia's defensive line. And I frankly don't have a lot of faith that they can do something.
I don't either.
The converse of that, as much as I am a TCU homer. Yeah, even though I'm not from TCU, I have been riding them all season, and I love them. They're a fun story. They do not stack up well with Michigan.
They're
Michigan, Michigan's in their bag.
Mm-hmm.
They're in their bag right now. They're running the ball really well. I know that there's probably not going to be Blake Corum, but if Donovan Edwards is back fully healthy, they've got
Who's number 7? Who's the kid number 7?
Donovan Edwards.
Okay, well that kid's better than Blake Corum. I called it.
Yeah, he's a dog. He's a much more bigger, more aggressive bruiser, and we've got
with top end speed, with pretty much, brother. He ran away from Ohio State. Like he's got elite top end speed.
Yes, and he did it. He did it against Purdue too. The thing that just frightens me is that offensive line is the best in the country, and that's going to get them to the national championship game. But I don't really have faith in Michigan against Georgia. Michigan hasn't been tested as much as Georgia's been tested more because of the schedule that they play. But like, I just don't think Michigan has a comparable game that we can sit here and say, well, they did this against this team that they can match up well. And that's what frightens me. And I don't know if I can trust JJ McCarthy. I don't know if I can trust, their defense to slow down Brock Bowers and company. That's where I get a little frightened in the national championship game.
Yeah. But the weird thing is, what's going to be bad too for Ryan Day is if he loses to Georgia and Jim Harbaugh is playing for a national title, they're going to eat him alive.
Well, he almost wasn't even playing in the play. He wasn't even almost.
He needed USC to lose. He needed Nail Boy to get hurt. Which, by the way, I'll leave that one alone. But but the only thing for Georgia and Ohio State for me is that I can't stop replaying in my head a backup quarterback for LSU who has a history of turnovers and being turnover prone, threw for 300 yards and a half. I can't get out of my head Jaden Daniels, who everybody ripped alive for not being for holding on to the ball too long and not being an elite passer, threw for 204 yards in the first half. Joe, they gave up 500 yards in the air. Okay? And my question would be, that comes down to this game, LSU's O-line held up. In the first half, they got pushed around a little bit, and you can call it garbage time, whatever you want to call it. Buddy, I don't give two Rudy Poos how much it is, because at the bottom line of it is they got picked apart through the air. They just did. And if Ohio State can keep that game close early, they got a shot. If they're within 14 points going into halftime, because Georgia's, let me tell you something about Georgia, and I got the evidence to back this up. Tennessee against Tennessee. Truth is, if you go pop in the film, they got their asses beat in the second half. Everybody says they took their foot off the gas. The bullshit they did, they were throwing the ball all over the place, trying to separate more. They couldn't. They got stopped. LSU in the second half, they kind of got mollywopped defensively. Missouri, okay, like they've had times in the second half they've played like absolute dog shit. So I just for whatever reason, I'm picking Georgia to win. Okay, don't get it twisted. I think they're going to win. Mm-hmm. But I still think Ohio State's got more of a punch. I think Ohio State has more of a puncher's chance than TCU has a puncher's chance to beat Michigan. I know that sounds weird, but I think Georgia's beatable. That's all I'm saying.
The only difference, though, and I mean, it's good evidence to say like they gave up a lot of yards and it wasn't they
gave up a lot of points too.
Yeah, and it's not as prolific of an offense as the one that Ohio State brings to the table here in this game. But LSU also didn't win the game. And that's why, to me, that's still garbage time. Like, those are garbage time yards. It's not like they brought it within, like, a score.
Make the argument for Tennessee.
What do you mean by make the argument for Tennessee?
They didn't score. Georgia got blanked in the second half.
Yes. My argument is they've done those things, but they still win the games. They're still winning the football games because they have the physicality, they have the intensity on both sides of the football that they're able to control those things.
My argument's not that they're not going to win.
Yeah.
My argument is they got a pretty big they got a puncher's chance more than anybody on the. Ohio State's got more of a puncher's chance, in my opinion, than anybody because of the dudes that they got on the. Keely Ringo's going to stop Marvin Harrison Jr. Good luck.
But the counter to that though is who
They
on
couldn't
Michigan's
stop Kayshon Boutte.
who on Michigan's defense was so good that stopped them. Like they completely took them out of the end of that game, which is why they won. Which a lot of it was because of the run game in the time of possession.
Correct.
That's obviously a key factor. But like Michigan's defense, I don't think compares that
No, they
much
don't.
to Georgia.
No, they don't. But
I just think that Ohio State is on paper. The argument is it's 1,000% valid. Elite receivers, elite quarterback, a talented offensive line. But at the same time, they have been known, and they've already done it multiple times this year. They even did it against Penn State, where they got punched in the mouth. Anytime that they've got punched in the mouth by a more physical team.
But they came back and won, though.
Yeah, they came back and beat Penn State because they were way more athletic than them. But for Michigan's sake, they got punched in the mouth, equally athletic, talented team. They couldn't get back into it. Georgia, more talented, more athletic, way more physical team than Michigan. Like, this is like, I just think that they're going to get punched in the mouth and they're going to get knocked out. As much as I want this to be a close game and I want a competitive game, I actually worry more that this ends up being a blowout. I think
it could be.
There's a lot on the line for that to happen.
It could be, or they got a chink in their armor.
Can they exploit it? Like, that's what it comes down to.
Here's the ultimate truth. If they can, I think LSU exposed Georgia a little bit. I really do. Buddy, I'm sorry. When LSU's about to score and go down 13 points in the second half, that's not garbage time. It's not. But brother, they were playing their entire starting defense.
What was the final score exactly?
Was it 50-30, 50-30? And here's the thing.
Yeah.
LSU fumbled the ball and threw an interception. And here's another thing. They had 3 3-and-outs to where they could have tied the foot. The 20-point game is not indicative of how close that game was in the second half. It's not.
It felt like one of those games, and I know that you play Madden and NCAA football like I did. And
you're saying they got skunked?
No, I feel like, how many times have you played like a franchise mode or a dynasty game, and you're like, you're playing like Akron in dynasty mode, and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna smack this team, and you're dicking around a little bit, and you're like, okay, well, I need to stop throwing picks, I need to stop making mistakes, I need to stop making these dumb throws, and then the game ends up being a lot closer. My point is that it felt like when I was watching that game that Georgia was dicking around, thinking that they had that game the whole time, but they were thinking it was going to come way too easily. I just don't think that they're going to come into the playoff game with that same mentality. And that's what happened against Missouri. They came in there and Kent State. They were like, oh, this is a much weaker opponent. We're going to come in. We're going to knock their teeth in. And we don't have to try as hard. We're going to give a 70% effort. I just felt like they were kind of given that same vibe against LSU. And that's not a knock on LSU, but that's how they felt like they were playing.
But you could say the same thing about Tennessee. My only thing is when you do that, okay, there's going to be a point where you get knocked out. Okay.
Right. So they always get too high on themselves is my point.
Correct. All right. Last point here, last topic. Okay. Well, I mean, because we'll make a special show for New Year's Eve or something.
Yeah.
And talk about it all day. The NCAA hired a new president, and I forgot his name. Charlie Baker.
Yeah.
Republican. I don't care. He's a Republican, but he's a politician from, and I guess the sitting governor of Massachusetts. Joe, can I tell you how angry it makes me that you got to go hire a politician? When you get the government involved in regulating money, it never bodes well. They're wanting Charlie Baker, and they hire Charlie Baker to go to the government to regulate the transfer portal and NIL. Okay. Why don't you just come up with your own fucking decisions? Why don't you just have a backbone and make your own decisions? Like, why? Like, this is why I have been on board with having a commissioner. You know who should be the NCAA president, in my opinion, just throwing his name out there? Greg Sankey.
I knew you were going to say that.
Or a lot of people in the Big Ten hate your boy. Who's the Big Ten commissioner? Smith. Was it Kevin Smith?
Let's look it up.
If I'm not mistaken, even hiring him to
Kevin Warren
to some degree. Okay. Two guys that have been absolutely killing it, whether you like Kevin Warren or not. He just did a deal to get USC and UCLA in the Big Ten. He knows what he's doing. Okay. He got when Greg Sankey did what he did, he counteracted and he I don't want to say matched it, but it got as close as he could to matching what the SEC is doing. Why in the hell are you getting Charlie Baker to be the NCAA president? And Joe, here's the biggest thing: we're about to expand the playoff.
Yes.
When are you going to push back National Signing Day?
They need to.
Are you going to there's more that meets the eye than just NIL that he's going to have to fix. And you've had investigations like an IARP who investigated all these basketball schools. It failed. I really worry. I really worry for the sanctity of college athletics by hiring this dude. I really worry about it now.
The way that I look at this, and I said this to you before we taped, he's a meat puppet. He's a meat shield. Like that's what the point of this is that there are so many other entities and people in the sport that are pulling the strings in the back end. And those are the people that don't want to be the ones under fire. So they're trying to bring in somebody who takes the paycheck and is willing to take the heat. That's what they're trying to do here. And I think part of it too is that they need somebody to communicate with Congress, because that used to not be something that was in the fold. The NCAA thought that they could just act the way that they were acting without any repercustions. And now that they're being held accountable, they need somebody that can speak the language and maybe fight to get some of their control back, which is stupid. I am always I'm a firm believer that Sankey should be the commissioner of college football, should not be a part of the NCAA, and it should be its own separate entity, and we should have a completely restructuring of the game. I have always spoken on that, and I think that is the direction we eventually might move in. And this lame ass move to go for a sitting governor, I think, is even more proof that we're going to work in that direction, because this guy's not going to do anything. He's not going to do anything. The one thing that we know about politicians is they goof around and they waste time trying to make moves, and it's just a lot of lollygagging. A lot of times these things, there's a reason why the government's so slow, and the things that need to go through don't. Yeah,
you ever been in line at the DMV?
Exactly my point. The things that are important are never the ones that are fixed. Nothing's going to change under this idiot, and it is just such an off-base move by the NCAA. As much as it angers me, the way that I'm looking at it is it's meaningless. It means nothing for us, because eventually, I think that these schools have enough control, and these conferences have enough control that I'm not talking about like a secession, but there's going to be some type of separation where they're going to be the ones who restructure how everything's going to be shaped up.
If you're able to find, here's why schools right now won't leave: March Madness and college baseball. Okay, they won't leave because that's the national title. If conferences all align and come to a formula to get a March Madness, because the NCAA runs the March Madness. I don't think people realize that they run it.
Yeah,
it's a multi-billion-dollar thing. For example, Northwestern Mutual paid $1 billion to be the mainline sponsor. $1 billion over the next 6 years to be the headline sponsor of March Madness. $1 billion. The NCAA got half of it. Okay, because they're running it. My point is that I don't know if they're going to separate, but there does need to be a third party. So in fighting, I'll use the UFC as an example. You have USADA, USADA is basically the doping agency that tests all these fighters for not taking dope, drugs, stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. I think the NCAA needs to restructure who they are. I think if they want to run the championships, it is what it is. It's whatever. But I think they need to be the third party that is an investigative unit. Okay, they need to just investigate either wrongdoings into what happens at other programs. I don't think they need to run college athletics. I think you need to dictate, and you need to hire a commissioner. You need to have a commissioner over college athletic or college football, college baseball, college basketball and be done with it. Okay,
Yeah.
be done with it. And if you want to run all the other minority sports, do it. Okay, but everybody says, well, Blake, Title IX, you can't do that. This shit you can't. Okay, it's all this shit you can't do it. And then there's people say, well, you got to have a collective bargaining agreement and all that kind of stuff. Well, then figure it out, because I don't mean this in a wrong way to women's athletics. I really don't. I love watching LSU and gymnastics teams. I think that UCLA's got a great one. You're not mainline, and to where there's so much money being spent with, with all of the stuff that goes in. Olivia Dunn is one of the biggest NIL earners at LSU. She's an LSU gymnast. That's great. But the headline sports of college athletics go football, basketball, baseball. It's just the truth.
No one's making recruiting violations for women's sports that need to be held accountable.
They're not. Well, they're not, at least they're not being held accountable. Okay. So my bottom line goes into all of, they're going to have to figure something out, because it's dying. It's literally dying on, you know what? I said this too. Is there nobody under Roger Goodell or at the NBA who would want to be a commissioner or the NCAA president? They've run highly well-run institutions. I can make fun of Roger Goodell all the live long day. They're still a $7 billion business a year.
The one thing that you just said that actually stands out to me is that you said that it's dying. Part of me thinks that these conference commissioners, these school athletic directors
are letting it die.
Yes. I think that this is a hire that they're like, go ahead. We're not against that hire. Go for it. Yeah, go for it. He sounds great. He went to Harvard. He played basketball at Harvard. Sounds great. He kind of fits what we're going for. And they just want it to crumble. That inevitable crumbling allows them to take control. They can't take control with a powerful entity controlling the future of the sport, which 10 years ago, it was significantly more powerful. It probably was at 10, 15 years ago, it was probably at its peak in terms of the control that it had as an institution. Right now, man, it's like a quarter of that. It is so low, and they're just waiting for it to die off. They're waiting for him to die, and then they can reap the rewards.
Did you see the new Game of Thrones, the Targaryen one?
I don't watch Game of Thrones. I'm sorry.
I don't watch Game. Well, you should. It's basically what's happening with the NCAA with the king in that series. Same thing is happening.
They're waiting for him to die, is what you're saying?
Waiting for him to die. It's exactly what's happening. All right. Joe, it's been a productive one. We'll be off next Saturday. We'll have some news coming up. I'm assuming we'll work that out.
Yes. And
it will not be the AYSEC anymore, is we'll be doing it. Well, I guess you want to tell them before we get out of here? We're changing the game.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we're gonna change it to the Ruffino and Joe show. We'll be trying to go 2 times a week, talking SEC, talking college football, and I think it's gonna be fun. So as me and Joe separate, to being, he's like the Russillo and I'm like the Van Pelt. I just got more hair.
I love that comparison. You texted that to me. They got me a little juiced up. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, you're Russillo. You're the guy who, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to explain you and Russillo. You are the same dude.
I've never gotten that comp. I've gotten the
Jeffrey Dahmer.
The Jeffrey Dahmer one, but he's not a
2023. I won't bring it up.
Well, I'm gonna completely shave my head, and then nobody's gonna call me that. And I'm gonna sit here blind. I'm gonna sit here blind every show and not be able to see.
Put the glasses back on. You put the glasses back on.
Yeah, I've been told I have very beady eyes by my co-host Sean.
Well, Sean's just he's so rude.
He's a mean individual. He's very mean.
He's a very mean.
Well, it's our charm. It's like we hate each other. But are we spelling it Ruffino EAUX and Joe EAUX per the recommendation of Eric Weinberger?
I don't like that.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of it.
If we're gonna do it, I think we put EAUX on mine. But
but then it's weird if it's just one of them.
I know it's too much. It's too much EAUX in my.
Yeah, I agree. It's also doesn't really, because we're not. This isn't Southern
Louisiana thing.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see y'all. We might just do one for December 31st. So we'll, We'll figure something. We'll do a
Yep.
show before everything. All
Yeah.
right.
Pending.
We'll see y'all soon. Blake Ruffino, Joe DeLeon. Y'all have a good one.